The production of this video was made possible by donors to the Orchestration Online Patreon initiative and this channel's Buy Me a Coffee page. Please consider adding your support to the creation of free educational internet resources by visiting the links in the information below.
English horn shares a pronounced compatibility with flutes, from featured duos to radiant harmonies. At softer dynamics, timbral blending can become near imperceptible. Hey there, this is your orchestration tutor Thomas Goss, bringing you a new preview chapter from my upcoming book, now titled 100 Deep Dive Orchestration Tips, this time exploring the affinity between English horn and flute. I wouldn't blame any developing orchestrator for having the general perception that English horn is basically a rich, sonorous lower oboe that's best use is to be trotted out for emotionally indulgent solos. But if you've read and viewed many of my resources, you'll already know that this kind of playing is only the beginning of the instrument's capabilities. It's in some ways actually easier to play than oboe, the larger reed a bit more yielding to manipulation by the player's embouchure, and the bore of the instrument more optimized for an even tone across registers. This means that it's a superbly flexible ingredient in many different situations, and a thoroughly capable core player rather than just a soloist. I've covered a lot of this already in Chapter 17 of 100 More Orchestration Tips, the video adaptation of which I've linked in the information below. In that video, I discuss how English horn can team up with certain instruments quite effectively, like the top note of a chorale with bassoons and so on. Then at the end of the video, I tacked on an excerpt that wasn't featured in the book, a long unison duo of English horn with first flute, from Berlioz's Rob Roy Overture. Let's explore some of the deeper issues at play here, and the striking coloristic combination that represents. First, the simple observation that the shared range of both instruments lies across separate relevant registers, as would naturally happen combining the soprano register flute and the more alto-oriented English horn. Here, Berlioz scores pitches across an octave and a half of range, from sounding middle D up to A above the staff for flute. For the reading up a fifth transposing English horn, that's naturally A in the staff up to its high, but manageable E above. This means that the flute's low register, its softest, most delicate pitches, combines very well with the English horn's beautifully balanced middle register, while at the other end of the shared range, the English horn's thinner high pitches blend easily with the flute's complex middle register. The potential similarities of each instrument meld their tones together in different ways with the rise and fall of the line, mellowing but not erasing the basic differences in timbre. It's an incredibly insightful bit of scoring, all the more so when one considers that this dates all the way back to the beginning of Berlioz's career, right after composing and premiering the first draft of Symphonie Fantastique. So we can see that the two instruments have a certain shared quality of voluptuousness in their lower contiguous range, and ever more refined sensitivity as the pitches rise. This relationship can be extended by expanding the unison to an octave's distance, opening the lower register of the English horn and the high register of the flute. As one might well expect, Berlioz also explored this relationship thoroughly, this time in his Romeo et Juliet dramatic symphony. He gives us two extended passages featuring flute and English horn in lyrical octave statements, the first venturing between the middle to upper ranges of both instruments. Here the flute's radiant, folk-like qualities are allowed to shine over the nicely moderated glow of English horn. The fuller sound of the flute, as it rises through its high register, imbues substance to the overtones of its lower partner, meaning that the English horn's natural thinness on its high notes won't be so much of an issue. Likewise, the wonderfully mixed quality of tone in the flute's middle register is nicely complemented by the lightly reedy tone of the English horn's notes within its staff, so long as the latter player doesn't get edgy with their delivery. Berlioz pushes this relationship even lower, with even greater innovation. The second excerpt of a featured octave duo between flute and English horn starts on a low-sounding A in both instruments, written low E for English horn. At a piano dynamic, the balance is beautifully workable between the two soloists, the lightly burnished hum of the English horn below, adding some warmth to the breathy tone of the flute. From there, this duo mostly covers the middle register of both instruments, but with greater weight toward lower tones, and only a few notes reaching up into the flute's high register. Here I feel the combination is ever more unique and original in conception, as the previous excerpt might almost have been pulled off substituting oboe for English horn, while in this passage, the latter's unique quality of moderated timbre is at a premium for the humane sensibility of the combination. Take special note of the two harmonic breaks dividing and bookending the duos, in which combinations of flutes, English horn, and clarinets, then added oboe at the end, show that English horn can help form very subtle, glowing wind harmonies without standing out glaringly within any given chord, even at pianissimo. More combinations of this sort suggest themselves naturally. For instance, one might juxtapose the instruments in a two-octave unison relationship, such as those I explored here on the channel in extensive detail a few months ago. Honegger scores a bar of this in his Concerto da Camera, with a pronounced resemblance to flute over bassoon, the tweedling of the flute underpinned by a more chuckling, bubbling double reed timbre, both balancing quite well at a forte dynamic. Not so successfully, though, as the passage continues, does this level of dynamic intensity work in single octaves, especially going deeper and deeper into the low register of both instruments. At forte, the English horn easily blasts the flute's tone nearly out of audibility, apropos of which, the diminuendo at the end certainly helps the flute quite a bit. Don't get the idea from those two out-of-balance bars, though, that Honegger lacked an ear for balance. Nearly all of the relationships between the two soloists in his concerto are manageable for the players. Even many cases in which the natural order of voices is inverted, with the English horn playing in thirds, and even sixths and sevenths above the flute, which is still perfectly audible, even playing all the way down to low D and C-sharp below. This particular passage involves a lot of trading off between higher and lower positions for the instruments, and is very fun to perform from what players tell me. As we listen to it now, especially with the closer harmonies, listen for how the timbres can get more and more attuned in their resonance and colors. And that just allows us to address another concern, that of providing a lower partner to the flute family in general. While, of course, a third flute or alto flute is the ideal in combination with a standard pair of flutes and harmonies, one may not always have the numbers or the convenience within the score to assign such a player. So, when one wants a seamless three-part harmony, especially for middle and lower register flutes, the question is what instrument to assign to that lower voice. Often, the obvious choice is clarinet, especially if the intention is to accentuate the cooler, more crystalline qualities of the flutes. But if one wants a warmer, more intimate quality, then it's hard to beat an English horn, especially the lower the flutes go into territory where an oboe would get ever more pungent, while a bassoon might have more of a tenor edge. The English horn, as played by a qualified professional, should be able to blend nearly seamlessly, while adding a subtle glow to the overall timbre. We can hear this even in a note performer mock-up. Naturally, this all relies on a dynamic level on the subtle side, as we heard before. Such harmonies were featured in my recent video covering the Carmina Burana song Amor volat undique. During the soprano's entrance, flutes and English horn play an E fifth with an augmented fourth suspension, all pitches doubled by solo muted violas. The sound is rich, humane, and yet with a touch of the unearthly. It's the perfect floating background to the unsettling cajoling of the goddess of love, tempting her followers toward a life of romantic fulfillment. Which just leads us back to Berlioz's Romeo et Juliet. We already witnessed some wonderfully subtle wind harmonies in his scherzo from that work. Earlier on, in his strophes movement, he uses English horn amongst combinations of flutes and clarinets, like a touch of amber in a perfect blue sky over deep green forests. Just that one mellow double reed voice, whether at the bottom or in the middle of the harmony, is enough to add a touch of warmth to the entire texture, in a way that either oboe or bassoon might well over-brighten. We've heard examples by Berlioz and Honegger thus far. So why not one more genius orchestrator from Paris? The greatest of them all, Maurice Ravel. In a very early example of his masterful approach, Rhapsody Espagnole, the Malagueña features flowing harmonies, with middle to upper flutes and English horn, spanning an octave, but with the second flute weaving between the outer instruments in different contexts. Ravel hedges his bets by keeping the dynamic at a very balance-capable pianissimo, with a seamless dovetailing of flutes to piccolos and English horn to first oboe, with second oboe and first clarinet adding another layer below. The affinity between flutes and English horn can be heard powerfully here, the higher instruments with their cherubic glow, and the lower one adding strength and durability to the timbre while never dominating. It's a really superb calculation, even though it regrettably lasts less than 10 seconds. Let's finish up with a little more score study of the Honegger Concerto da Camera, looking at a passage in which the duo instruments are mostly completely independent of one another and scored in stronger registers without overplaying each other at all. It's a great work in general to study, and I've linked a Score Plus audio version in the info as well. Enjoy, and I'll see you soon.